let's get to your first most important player in the NBA.
Trae Young. Trae Young is my number one player
Trae was the next guy I was going to bring up.
I assume so. Again, just to real quick reiterate, I looked at the teams who I think can be real contenders of some capacity in their conference, and then who were the players on said teams that I'm like, okay. And I think Trae Young tops my list. One, this is a compliment to the Atlanta Hawks, the organization in general, and where I think that team is. I think they're a top 4 team in the East right now. And I think with health and things coming together, the play of Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, bringing in one of my favorite players, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Risa Shea, in year 2, all of that, they've set themselves up to be real contenders in the Eastern Conference. But all of that is Trae Young having his best year yet. I think that's what it comes down to. They put the right type of roster around him, the right players around him to insulate him on both ends of the floor. And so I think he has all reason to be the engine of this offense and then give enough effort defensively that, it's just not a disaster on that end. And along with the fact that extension eligible, player option, all of the contract things that go along with this situation as well. It kind of easily was Trae Young for me, especially after like the Luka Doncic conversation we had earlier.
Well, I'll even flip this one on its head. You know what I mean? I think that this is the most important season of Trae Young's career.
Sure.
Is what I would say. Trae, I think by and large has been, just who he is as a player. He's been really great for quite a long time, right? He plays, typically 70 games in a year. He's played at least 73 games in 3 of the last 4 years. Made All NBA, in 2022? So 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago now. But this roster particularly is really built around him and built in a way to maximize his ceiling. So what do I mean when I say that? So we have at center a big who can really space the court and will be able to allow Trae Young to really live in the paint in the way that he is so capable of in ball screens with his ability to keep guys on his hip, maintain advantages, and to be able to get to floaters. Like that floater for Trae is going to be even more open now because of having Kristaps. Kristaps can also roll to the rim. Like he's not a massive roller. He does tend to pick and pop because of how dangerous the shooting is. Kristaps is one of the few bigs in the NBA that you have to guard out on the perimeter. If you don't, or if you don't get a body on him as a trailer, you're dead. You are just absolutely dead. He's going to make threes. On top of that, just defensively and in terms of athleticism, right? You have Dyson Daniels. You have Risa Shea, who's another long, active defender who's not super strong, but is certainly a guy that I think is going to be a good defender in time and could be a good defender even as of this year. I thought he definitely knew where to be last year. I thought that his basketball brain was really strong defensively last year, just in terms of knowing where to rotate, being able to play in that 1-on-2 on the backside. I thought he was really, really strong at that. Then you also have, obviously, like I said, Dyson Daniels is one of the best defenders in the league. Hopefully he gets an extension done here momentarily. You go out and you sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is this, another high-level defender who can knock down shots. You have Onyeka Okongwu as a backup center, so you should have 48 minutes of really strong center play. You have your rim runner in Okongwu. You have your pick and pop weapon in Kristaps. I am fascinated to see if they try and play those guys together at any point this year.
Oh, I bet they do.
I would bet that they do as well. And then finally, you also have Jalen Johnson here, who's really their second best player and who's a perfect running mate for Trae Young in transition, right? Because of his ability to get up and down, because of his ability to grab and go, his passing ability, everything like that. You've built literally the perfect roster for Trae Young. But Trae Young is not signed past this year. He is signed past this year. He's a player option if he gets hurt or something. But Trae Young is not going to pick up that player option if he's healthy, because at the end of the day, somebody's going to give Trae Young a bunch of years at the very least at a similar number, if not a max number, because that number that he's on, I think it's 48 next year, right? 49 almost. That's not his max number. So somebody's going to give Trae real money in the offseason next year, and they're going to do it over term. So if he stays healthy this year, that option's gone. Like, there's no way that he's doing that. The other thing is here, they could just extend him at the end of the day. Like, they could very well just extend him, and that can change things. But the fact that he does not have really a deal past this year, he has a safety valve, is what I would say, with the player option for himself. They've built this roster perfectly around him to get the most out of him. This is the year where Trae, really has to go, because the other piece of this too is when they made their first run, right? Mm-hmm. When they went to the conference finals and they beat the, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Philadelphia 76ers and everything, that took a lot of people by surprise, right? And then they were no longer a real surprise team, right? And they kind of stagnated a little bit. Trae himself, I would argue, just continues to be great and is still one of the best drivers of offense in the NBA. And I don't think it was his fault that they stagnated. Like, I don't blame Trae Young for the fact that the team just didn't take the next step. I think that there are myriad other reasons why the team didn't take the next step, be it from DeAndre Hunter not taking that leap. Like 45 other guys, like Clint Capella, starting to feel the effects of age, and there are just a million other things. Bogdan Bogdanovic, like, not being great, and then like John Collins, them not really figuring out his fit, right?
The DeJounte Murray trade that didn't. The DeJounte Murray
trade was a catastrophe, right? So like, I think that the team stagnated. And it wasn't necessarily his fault, but he's the leader of the team, right? They're not going to take anybody by surprise this year, I don't think. People are expecting them to be like the 4 or 5 seed in the East, at the very least.
Yep.
How did they adjust to going from the team that is like the surprise team? Because they've never really gotten to that point where I think there were genuine expectations outside of those like 2 years out after the conference finals, really maybe even just the 1 year after the conference finals, frankly. How do they adjust to being a little bit more of the team that has expectations? I think that Trae is kind of built for this, to be honest with you. I think that he wants that. I think that he kind of loves that. We've seen it in the playoffs. But it's important for him to show it at the end of the day and to actually do it. And that's a whole other conversation. And I think he will do it. I think we're in for a big Trae Young year. I think he's going to be right on the borderline of all NBA again. But man, I am truly, truly interested to see what happens with Trae Young this year, because you brought up the contract thing as well. I mean, Trae Young, has a chance to be the biggest free agent in the summer of 2026. At the end of the day, depending on other extensions and things that get done. LeBron, obviously, there are myriad other guys that could be on the market, but he might end up being the guy. It's not impossible. So to me, Trae Young is, absolutely one of the most important players in the NBA this year. And it is the most important season of his career, I think.
Yeah. I think that's why he ended up at the top of the list for me, was not just this team, this roster, all of that, but what you said there, that's really well phrased in terms of it, not just for them, but for him specifically, because there's already people who really question Trae Young and his talent and how good is he and how, blah, blah, blah. But we can't outline, if this team stays healthy, what this team is. And if they don't win at a fairly high level, it is going to really come down to Trae Young. And then the questions really start in terms of what is he? Because it's hard to imagine a team better constructed around Trae Young as a player than what Atlanta has done right now. Again, assuming there's no crazy regression from players, there's no major, if Kristaps plays 20 games and that's it, well, then that conversation is a little bit different. If Jalen has a regression or Risa Shea doesn't improve or, something like that, because the other thing they do, like there's other ball handlers to take pressure off of him. Jalen can do that a little bit. Dyson Daniels can do it a little bit. Luke Kennard can do it a little bit. Nah can do it a little bit. So whenever there needs to be a little bit of pressure off him in terms of the ball in his hands and doing all that, they can do that as well. I'm not saying he's going to go play off the ball a lot. I think we know that's not something Trae is going to do. But it's just like when you think about what does Trae Young need? Okay, these big perimeter wing defenders, plenty of those guys, right? Do they have the floor spacing? You mentioned the two different types of bigs. It just is a team that seems to fit him very well. And so I think he needs to have his best season because people are expecting that from him, along with the expectations on the team overall and the contract situation.